I'm a really jokey, optimistic person, but my favorite sort of music is really dark and aggressive, and to someone that maybe isn't in our world would find it quite scary. It's a very dangerous thing to do to yourself, to look at overnight sensations in anything and think that that's going to be you. I think we've lost the love of the long journey and the grind, and how much of a better person that makes you. Do you know what though? You just said my favourite word, discipline, right? It's my favourite word. Motivation is nothing, okay? It's discipline that will make you do things. Do you know what? I would say the new generation is probably the biggest part of the scene right now.
Hello and welcome to a brand new podcast series from One More Thing. This one is all about the new generation who are currently shaking things up and making waves in the scene. This is their time right now. For the first episode, I am joined by FaZe Records founder Gifta. She's half French, half Cockney, but all Gabs, and she's been setting the foundations for a really promising career for over 10 years now. But she's truly flourished during the lockdown streaming era and come out of it with a really impressive label and a killer collection of really exciting artists such as Ominous, Premonition, Zide, Albies, Kavala, Inertia and many others. Fresh from her year as Hospital Records business mentee, Gifta joins me for a really inspiring chat about her career so far, the ups and downs of the industry, her influences, the creative process and some tunes that I asked her to bring along, one of which really made me fall out of my chair. There's loads to learn here and there's a really, really cool twist at the end which will take us to the next episode of this podcast series. If you're into Gifta's sound and what she stands for, then you can actually grab this track that's playing underneath me right now for free. It's called Wrench and it's available as a free download on One More Thing. But you can grab that later because right now it's time to tune in to the words of wisdom of Gifta. Gifta, how are you doing?
I'm good, Dave. How are you?
I'm not bad. I'm going to turn this headphone right down.
Okay.
Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you very much.
Cool. This is the brand new series, brand new year, brand new series, focusing on the newer generation, people coming through, changing the game. What does new gen mean to you?
I think it's just that new wave of artists that are, I guess, making that new music that you may not have heard before, but at the same time taking inspiration from the kings and queens that came before us. Yeah, that's who we are, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Do you feel part of a new generation?
Do you know what? I do, in the sense I've actually been trying to break into the drum and bass scene since I was 19 and I'm 28. Wow. So it's been a long journey and it's only starting to, I guess, kind of get interesting now. But I do definitely feel very new gen. Yeah, absolutely. Even though my grind has been a long one.
Yeah. And that's really, really important to know. With anybody who's coming through now and making their first releases and making their first moves, launching labels and all of these amazing things that you're doing, there's still 10 years behind. Whenever I'm talking to anybody who's in their early 20s or mid 20s, there's still that 10 years. Even people who are coming through have still that's just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it, really?
And you know what? I think it's a very dangerous thing to do to yourself, to look at overnight sensations in anything and think that that's going to be you. I think we've lost the love of the long journey and the grind and how much of a better person that makes you. If I was 19 and I'd broken into the scene at 19, I'd be really worried for that young kid, but now I'm more mature than I was when I was 19. I've got a lot of life experience behind me that I can bring to it, and a lot of you know, being used to rejection and all these things that I think are really, really integral and really, really important to being an artist, I think.
Yeah, definitely. The longer the come up, the more longevity the career is going to have in that type of way, really.
And then all the like little wins that I get just feel like so amazing. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, go on. So you were 19 then when this journey started. Then
Yeah.
was there an epiphany? Was there a real kind of moment?
My friend at uni got decks, and for ages I wouldn't like have a go on them, like I don't know, I was just a bit nervous, and like all the boys were doing it, and then he was like, no, but Gabs, you should do it because you can dance really well to D&B, and so I feel like that means you'll be a good DJ. I'm not sure about the logic, but that's what he said, and I just fell in love with it from there, and very quickly started to do things like rough tempo, because my uni was really close to rough tempo.
Go on,
so I went
cool.
to uni in Essex, and I went after like 2 months of learning to mix, and I was awful. Like I was so bad. Like I clanged every single like mix that I tried to do, but then I needed that, because then I was like, no, I want to be good at this. I have to be good at this. So that's sort of where it started. I don't know if it was an epiphany moment or more just sort of a compulsion that I had to do better than that.
Go on.
Yeah.
Is that still online, do you think, somewhere?
I don't know. Probably. Yeah.
Go on, but that does, I mean, you cut your teeth really, like when you're in the live environment and you're streaming and things like that there, you have to step up, don't you?
Yeah, you do have to step up. And, you know, looking at like what we went through over COVID, the entire drum and bass scene went online and everything became about streaming. So it was a really interesting sort of kind of full circle for me, that like it started with a really bad experience streaming, but then I sort of met really amazing people, and Phase Records was formed because of streaming during COVID. So it's really sort of quite interesting, I think.
Yeah, brilliant. And you'd already had that kind of journey before. So that was like kind of 6 years before. So streaming wasn't a new thing. So you came through, you're part of that kind of new generation who broke through, or I don't want to say generation really, school year or I don't know, like a wave. A new wave of people who came through from streaming. But you'd already, that was part of your journey anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like. Yeah, it's what I'd already did. And, you know, like the pandemic came and we all had nothing to do. Drum and bass came alive during the pandemic, I think, and like community, our community's great, but our community just really came together, and then suddenly the like up and coming scene became massive. This new generation became, do you know what? I would say the new generation is probably the biggest part of the scene right now. Like, there's just so many, and there's so many amazingly talented people, and I don't even know who they are. And like, that's both a wonderful thing and a crazy thing. Yeah. A very exciting thing for you as both a DJ in terms of being able to have all of this music. Yeah.
There's just an ocean of music, and also then as a label owner as well. Like that makes it very exciting, doesn't it?
It's very exciting. Yeah. I love discovering, you know, artists that maybe only really had like 1 or 2 releases somewhere, or you know, just even looking at people like Premonition who had just sort of started their production journey, but I think I was really instrumental in them not stopping doing that, and you know, having somebody to kind of be like their cheerleader, and I'm the biggest hype man going. Like if I like you and I think you're good, like you've got a hype man for life.
Go on, that's amazing. That's amazing. So at what point during lockdown then could you feel that, you know, you were going to come out of it with something, you know, that life was going to change completely after that, really, in terms of, you know, the development of Phase and the development of you as an artist as well?
Yeah. You know, I still have moments like that, Dave, like almost like weekly, that I feel like things are changing and it's getting bigger and amazing. But I think the moment for me was when The Cause, in which used to be a nightclub in Tottenham.
Love The Cause.
Amazing place. You know, the guy who ran events there said to me, do you want to have your label do a few sit-down raves? And, you know, we'd only been going for like a few months and we were all just like these like crazy kids, just so excited to like throw raves. And it was like, what, like 4 or 5 tables worth of people. but we felt like we were kings of the rollers, do you know, like selling out Wembley or something. I think that was a real turning point for us. Yeah.
And that was just within a couple of months of actually launching Phase.
Yeah. We were called Elevation at first, and it was just intended to be this streaming platform for people to have something to do and to, put themselves out there. And then Premonition was sort of like to me, you're really good at, like encouraging people, and you're really good at bringing people together, and you're really good at telling people what to do and getting them to do it. Have you thought about making it a label? And it's kind of thanks to them that Phase exists. I think the name Phase Records actually came from Louis' suggestion, because I went to download a tune by Boo and I think Friction called Seizure, and it was out on Elevate Records. So then I was like, well, we can't be Elevation now, it's just far too similar. And I think it was Louis who came up with the name Phase, and it just stuck.
Go on. Yeah. Cool. Because everything is just a phase, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Apart from the label, I hope.
Go on. That's awesome. I think, like, going back to your point about being good at managing a situation and getting people to do things, or encouraging people, getting people to do things, sounds a little bit like
violent,
yeah. But there's an art to it, isn't there? Like, there's an art to saying no. There's an art to saying, and there is like people management and people skills. That's something that, even now at 45, I'm still learning every single day, really. And that comes naturally to you then, does it?
Saying no is not something that comes naturally to me. I'm still working on that. But I think I hate wasted potential in people. And sometimes all people need is somebody to be that little stick of dynamite that's just going to be like, no, let's do it. And I think I know what needs to be done to get people to where they want to be. And it's about identifying who really wants it and working with them to get them there. You can't manage someone that doesn't want to be managed. And I think that's also a really valuable lesson that I've learned. Ultimately, I can't get anyone to do anything that they don't want to do, no matter how much I encourage them. So, I can only be a good label owner because my residents and the people I work with let me be, essentially. So, as good as I am, it's because they're fantastic. I think it's a two-way street.
Yeah. It has to be, really, doesn't it? And then there's trust involved then, really. And that's the responsibility. Like, the idea of running a label is super cool, but the actual, you've basically got a family now. You've got these people who you need to be, if you're signing somebody's music, and I've always felt that, and I've dabbled with the concept of a label and stuff, like, you're dealing with someone's creation there. Like, it's really important, including your own creations as well. Like, there's a lot of responsibility running a label, I think.
There is, I think a big word that you said that I use sort of all the time is, when a producer sends me their music, I just feel like they've trusted me with that, and I need to do it as much justice as I can. And if it doesn't do as well as I think maybe it deserved, I feel really personally responsible. Again, I'm getting better at doing that. Not everything is going to land the way you want it to, for so many reasons beyond your control. But yeah, I mean, trust, there is a lot of responsibility, sure. And like, so many things people don't see, like keeping all your invoices and, making sure you're doing things legally so that you and people you care about don't get into like big trouble. Like, there's so many responsibilities that people don't see as well that are like super important.
I mean, this the dry side of running a label. There's the really important side of running it. If you're going to have something that's lasting, that you want to last forever, you need to have that really kind of firm foundation. And I guess it's a discipline. How are you with that type of stuff? Because creative people aren't, and I'm speaking through my own experience, creative people are fucking useless with admin and forms and being organised and stuff. That's another art form in itself, I think, isn't it?
Do you know what though? You just said my favourite word, discipline.
Yeah.
Right? And it's my favourite word. Motivation is nothing, okay? Like, it's discipline that will make you do things. I don't like doing the taxes, I don't even like looking at the schedule and like making sure the promo list's done. I like writing the press releases. I like giving feedback. I like making people happy and putting out good music, or music I like rather. But you just have to tell yourself that you have to do it. And I've got a calendar on my wall with all my dates. I've got a spreadsheet on my desk. I've got like 14,000 different alarms on my phone just to make sure that I do it. And, you know, it takes sacrifice though as well. Like, it's, you know, I've missed out on some social events that would have been really good to go to. I have, you know, spent a lot of time just doing that. And as you'll know, it's all consuming, and that's part of the all consumption and discipline, like you said. Like, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Or otherwise it all falls down and you have to make massive sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
There's something, I touched on it in the last podcast that I did with DLR, really, where his intensity scared me at one point because I wasn't fully committed to what I do. And there was a real turning point for me where I started to eat, sleep and breathe this. It wasn't just a job. There had been other points where I was, but at that point I wasn't. I was very much focused on a lot of other things. And then there was a real turning point where I did just completely just dive in and just let everything just completely just take over every aspect of my life. And I felt that was a lot more enjoyable then, because it wasn't like a job in any way. Was there a point for you where it was almost like you're waving the white flag to drum and bass and just going, okay, I'm all yours. Every aspect of my time, my social life, my personal life, my brain is devoted to this pursuit?
I think maybe like, I want to say this time last year when we started to really do the official releases was when it really took over, and I look back now a year later and it's a hamster on a wheel, isn't it? Like, if you don't keep running, that wheel is not going to turn, and that's your responsibility. And the scene has so many amazingly dedicated, disciplined people that you can so easily be forgotten about in a way, like overnight. And if you don't, like you say, wave your white flag to it and let it consume you, it's not going to get where you want it to get. And I think people don't realize that there's a lot of, you know, I've got like 15 TikTok drafts on my phone for when I'm ill and can't create content so that I can put something out there. Like, it's just that constant, you have to give everything to it. Like, you just do. For it to, I mean, success looks different to everyone, right? But my definition of what will be successful for me requires it to be my everything. But like, I love it.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. Nothing makes me happier. Like, it's my reason to get out of bed in the morning. Any bad thing could happen to me and I think I'll probably be okay because I've got this, you know? Yeah.
Which, that's like, you know, we're really lucky to have that, because not everybody has. And it's not even, you know, you can be completely poor, but if you've got that one thing that
purpose,
you love,
innit?
that one thing, then it gives you complete purpose, fulfillment, and all of these things. I remember something, because we've done a few interviews before on One More Thing, and there was something you said about how, like, again, the discipline words keep on coming up, but how disciplined you were with your time when you were working full time, putting in gym and studio sessions and stuff. Essentially every single minute of your life was completely accounted for.
It's still the case. Like I was saying to you before we started the podcast, I'm now not working, but it's still the case. Like, 24/7 round the clock. Like, what is free time? And you know what? I don't want to have any of it. Like, I've got to a point now where I know how to avoid burnout, which is really important for productivity and mental health. But I can still find a way to do something. And I just, it's a compulsion. Like, I can't, you'll understand, you know, like it's an itch that you can't quite always scratch, but you just have to do something. And yeah, like, any minute of the day, it's all I think about. It's nothing else to life, really. I mean, I don't know if that might sound sad to somebody that doesn't get it, but we do. But it's everything, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same as if you were into a sport and you're training, and, you know, you can be training like, you know, 9-10 hours a day or something like that. It's when you're taking it to the highest possible level that you can, really.
I love like sports people. I like discipline, like that word, but like just the dedication, the passion, like the way it encompasses their entire life. I think there's so many things that us as creative artists can look at sports people and really try to emulate, I think they're inspiring, genuinely inspiring.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels as well, like because you're always looking to improve.
Yes.
You're always looking to develop and beat that, shave a few seconds off your personal best.
Sure.
And set those kind of records for yourself. And it's the same endorphin release as well. When you're smashing it, when you do something wicked, whether it's make a tune or play a wicked set or something cool all comes together, it's that same kind of goosebumpy rush that a sports person is going to get as well, an athlete or anybody in any type of kind of, I'm going to say the word again, discipline.
I think that's our key word.
Yeah.
The word of 2024, I reckon. Yeah. But it's true. It's true. Like, you know, and you even get a rush sometimes out of the things that don't go your way, I think. Yeah, because you just think, okay, cool. How am I going to spin this? How am I, okay, this label doesn't like that tune. Who can I send it to now? Or, okay, this piece of content didn't land. What can I do to make the next one even better? Or, this tune that I've made isn't great. How can I make the next one? Or, I don't know how to do this in production, so I'm going to go and relentlessly try and find a way to overcome that problem. And I think when you're in that mode where even the hard bits are pushing you, then I think you're onto something pretty special.
Yeah, definitely. This is an awful question now, but what's been the worst knockback that you've had so far? Gosh. I didn't expect to ask this, but you brought it up, and it is because I'm a positive guy. I like positive stuff, but people learn from these things.
Oh my goodness, Dave. That's really difficult. Do you know what? I think it might be the fact when I started the scheme with Hospital Records that they weren't going to put us on Hospitality on the Beach last year really upset me. But I really understand why they didn't do that. Like, I don't think we deserved it. I don't think we were a commercially viable decision for them. Now we are there next year, and I think, we've earned it now. That was a setback. It was humbling, and I didn't feel great. I understood, but that felt a bit rubbish. Yeah.
And there was a lot of kind of similar level brands that have been running for maybe a year or two longer, which were going over and representing. I'm trying to think, like, you're kind of Invictus and things like that, which have been around for just a little bit longer, had that little bit more progress and stuff. But because of the whole echo chamber of social media and stuff, so when you're seeing those announcements going up and you're seeing your peers and you're seeing other labels which are kind of similar level, that's the bit that makes it hard. I think whenever I'm speaking to artists, I know speaking to another artist, I won't name them because it was a private conversation, but they were really gutted that they didn't get announced for Glastonbury. They didn't get booked for Glastonbury, and lots of other people, similar kind of DJs of the wave that they came through, had been booked, and they were really disappointed and stuff like that. And just like, and it was because of Facebook, and it's like, I can't go on my socials at the moment because it's annoying me, it's upsetting me so much. And I think like that's probably one of the tools that a lot of any artists need to learn, but certainly newer people coming through in the landscape that we're in online, where we're all seeing each other's hype all of the time, is being able to not take things so personally.
I think so. That happens a lot, especially even in phase. Sometimes there'll be things that happen, and I have to tell people, guys, this is business now. This, what we're talking about, is business. I'm not upset with you. I don't want you to be upset with me. This is a business decision. And, drawing, I think, that parallel between Gifta, the boss, and Gabs, or, for example, an artist from the person, it's really a difficult thing to do, but it's so important. And you're right. Like, it doesn't mean you're not good because you haven't been booked for Glastonbury. And it doesn't mean you won't ever get booked for Glastonbury. You have to, you just got to be patient, and you have to, I think it's normal to be upset. I don't think people should kick themselves. I think comparison is a very natural human thing to do. And in some cases a good thing, but you just have to take that pain and that disappointment, and don't become bitter, and don't doubt yourself, and don't run your mouth on social media about it, and just, go back to the door, make a tune, go have a mix, and just keep keep grinding.
Yeah, let it be an inspiration for you, as you were saying before. There, really, definitely the whole thing about kind of was there when you're looking at things in a business way.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because I was having a meeting with hospital yesterday, and Chris, who runs hospital, was saying about, you know, that when it's business, you can never take it personally, but when it's your own brand, and you know, I'm speaking on personal, very very personal experience, I'm going to take everything personally, more personally than anything else. So was there a moment where you worked out how to not take things so personally, and how to have how to be quite, you know, disciplined again, with having your business head and having the Gabby head, you know,
I think it's taken time, I think, and seeing how not doing that has affected me badly, and just kind of saying I don't want to be that way, and having talks with Chris Goss as well, like you said, like what an inspirational person, and you know what an honor it's been to call this man my mentor, and what he's been able to, you know, Dave, the amount I've grown like the past 12 months with all of this, all of what we're talking about is just absolutely insane. Like I don't recognize myself. I'm a better person. I'm a better label owner. I'm a better businesswoman. But you know, this time next year I hope to say the same thing. So you know, I don't think there was a specific moment per se. I think it's a long gradual journey of trial and error, a lot of mistakes, a lot of tears, but a lot of really good times, and getting things right and going, okay, Gab, more than that, more of that.
Yeah. Go on. Let's talk about your productions,
Okay.
because the last time we spoke, I could start to identify a sound in the tunes, because you've only really been putting stuff out for just over a year, really, as a producer. And I could already identify a bit of a kind of signature within the bass lines I felt. How do you feel, where are you at now, and how do you feel about the Gifta sound?
Yeah, because I disagreed with you back then, and I found it really motivating, actually, that someone, you know, external to me said that. Now I'm feeling it. Like I've had a lot of producers who are friends of mine who were further on in their journey say to me, you know, Gab, one day it's going to click. And I've kind of been waiting for it to click for me, and now it's starting to, you know, I can feel that there is a sound coming through, and yeah, I think, but it's different to what I thought it would be when I first started. You know?
That's interesting.
Yeah,
go on.
I think it's kind of going down a little bit of like a Benny L, really heavy roller kind of vibe, rather than the more techie sound that I thought I would make.
Right.
But I'm not gonna lie, I'm really liking the stuff I'm starting to make, which is great. Yeah.
Wow, so it almost sounds like the music, like you're not even in control of that. What's coming out then, when you're letting your creative vision just flow, and you're not getting there, putting any limits on it, and there's a natural sound is developing. It's not what you imagined it to be.
Dave, that is exactly what someone else in Phase Records said to me as well. You know, he said to me, it was Louis, shout out Louis. He said to me, Gabs, like, don't sit in the door and try to make this or that, just see what happens. And now that I'm doing that, yeah, like I like it now. But like, you know, if anyone had told me this time last year you would sort of associate your music more maybe with stuff that's coming out on like Trez 2B and, you know, like 2018 DJ Limited, you know, I would have been like, I don't think that's what I'll make. But that's where it's going at the moment. I'm not saying it'll always be like that, but
yeah. I think it's really like that whole idea is just fascinating, because that's a natural thing that's happening there. There's like, it's not contrived in any way. And to be able to free yourself and your brain, I mean, you need to have, there's a certain level of technical knowledge. And once you've got to that and you can do that and you can have that freedom, it's like, that blows my mind how a natural thing just happens in that way. It's like a signature, it's a fingerprint in a way, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I finding my sound was something I really worried about, like low key. I was just sort of, oh, you know, is it really going to happen for me? I think all producers maybe when they're first starting out kind of have those worries. And, you know, I would make a track and I think it was amazing, and then I'd send it to someone for feedback, and I'd always say, no, give me proper feedback. You know, that's how I'm going to get better. Give me proper feedback. And it's that thing of not taking it personally, isn't it? Like, it would sting a bit because it wasn't good enough. But now, you know, my ears better. I've learnt so much through doing A&R for my own label. Hospital have been super helpful. That now, like, you know, that my own sound's coming through, and I can hear how much of a better producer I am, and it's just it's coming together. It's great. I'm not where I want to be. If somebody sent me one of my solo tunes to my label, I would tell them, don't release this, put it away.
Even now,
and we'll come back in 6 months and see what tunes you're making then, because you'll be better then.
Wow.
But you need to be honest with yourself.
Yeah. But you are your own worst self-critic in that way. Like, you know, I know I'm incredibly harsh to myself. You have to be, I think. Wow. So you're that brutal with your own tunes.
Absolutely. Like, you know, I think a lot of new gen are Russian production. Like, I remember watching Grey talk on his Instagram story that I think it was like 8 or 9 years before his Born on Road release. You know, Serum was producing for a really, really long time before he had his
20
release.
years.
I know, and you know, some people are like sending you stuff in 6 months, and they think, but you know, you're gonna be the one who regrets putting that out eventually. You're trying to rush the race, but
you can't. And I interview so many people who are like, you know, kind of another 10 years on from where you're at. And because I always, whenever I'm researching for an interview, I always go back to the earliest releases and kind of try and capture a sense of development and just see how far they've come. And whenever you talk about early releases with an artist who's been around for longer than 10 years, they're like, I've been trying not to remember those. I'd like to strike them off the record. Most people regret their earliest releases. But I think that kind of urgency is a really negative aspect of what the times in which we live. So you've got these adverts of like, you can be a number one EDM hit maker, and I compare a lot of things to rock, because I grew up with rock and a very rock
great
family.
Comparison.
And not everyone who owns a guitar plays on the main stage of Glastonbury. People can have an instrument just for fun. You don't have to be making bangers for Andy C to play. You know, and I think there's the minute you've got the minute you've got FL Studio or Logic or anything on your computer, it's almost like, right, I'm making bangers now, I'm a hit maker now, I'm going to make these tunes. When actually the fun is just the creative fulfillment of making a tune. It doesn't have to go anywhere. It can sit on your hard drive if you like. Not everything needs to turn into either a money-making thing or a side hustle, but because of economic situations that we all have, and the internet, and everybody just needing to have that extra bit of money, really, all hobbies have been ruined in that way. Like, they've all been monetized or gamified to a certain degree that people feel like, the minute they put a beat together or just got a couple of samples from Splice, that's it. They should be sending it to Serum or sending it to you. And it's like, no, that's not the case at all.
And do you know what? I miss the innocent naivety that I had when I first started producing. I really miss that, because I didn't know what the rules were, so I was just playing. It was just fun. It was just that new hobby, right? And it was really innocent. And Wilkes, who's one of my DJs, he's just started to learn to produce, and I'm not gonna lie, he sent me his first V1 the other day, and I said to him, bro, this is better than my first ever tune. So you're on a really good road here. But I said to him, hold on to that beginner's innocence for as long as you can. Just make it fun for as long as you can. Not that it's not still fun for me. I love producing. But, you know, I hear the mistakes. It takes a lot longer. There's clear aims now. And it's not just the innocent new playground of fun that it was. It can't be. There is a point where you've got to take it seriously, but that naivety, that kind of freedom, that's the powerful thing that got you addicted, you know, to making tunes in the first place and put you on this path in the first place. Exactly. And you know, I think me personally, my goals, I'm not saying everyone has to be like that. I would like to be a well-rounded drum and bass artist. So that means producing as well as DJing. To me, that's what that means to me. I also think producing has helped me become a better label owner, because I hear music a lot differently. My ears trained a lot better. And, you know, if it's good for FaZe, then that's what I'm going to be doing. You know, even if don't ever end up being the best producer in the world, I think it's been instrumental to FaZe Records that I produce music.
Yeah. Because then you can provide that kind of feedback on a really technical level as well, like definitely. So there's a downside of that then, because it stops you from enjoying music as a fan because you're being analytical. But before we get to that, we're going to listen to one of your tunes now.
Okay.
While we've been talking about the Gifta sound and stuff. So tell me what we're going to listen to.
But my one, so this is a tune that I made with a Scottish producer called Ominous.
Cool.
It's called Keep It Tuned. I basically sent him almost a full track, and he kind of almost used it as stems in a way, and then we had some back and forth with it. And so this is actually going to come out on Phase in June, I believe.
Oh, cool.
It might be part of a Gifta EP, if I deem that my production is good enough by then. If not, it'll be a single. But yeah, this is Keep It Tuned.
Go on, wicked. Let's have a buzz. So how do you do collaborations? What's your favourite? Because obviously Ominous is in Scotland, isn't he? So.
Yeah. Well, I've released an EP of his already, and we're going to do another one next year with him. He's very talented. And just through sort of back and forthing about his own tunes, I sort of went, oh, Liam, mate, you know, I've got some stems sitting here. I don't really know what to do with them. Do you want a collab? And he said, yeah.
Oh, cool.
And that was it. Yeah.
How many backs and forths?
Keep your radio tuned to this frequency.
I just had to leave you there for the drop. Sorry. Yeah.
Go on.
Quite a few. We actually sat on this for quite a while, and then recently he said to me, nah, this mix down needs to be better. So then he did a final mix down of it. So in actual fact, this has been in the works for like 6 months, I think.
Wow.
Something like that. My collab with Zide, Blink State, we got that done fairly quickly. My collab with Kavala, Losing, I feel like that was done quite quickly too. With Losing, I just kind of sent stems over to Rick, and then he just ran with them, and then he sent me back a V1, and I was like, yep, I like it.
Right, yeah, brilliant.
Anything, yeah.
No need to overlabour it or anything like that.
I think it depends. It really depends. I mean, if I can be in the studio with someone, that's the ideal. But like in the world that we live in, I think we're so lucky to be able to collab and work with people without having to travel and be together.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like being able to do Vision Radio while I'm in the valleys and they're in the Netherlands and
amazing,
stuff like that.
isn't it?
We live in this kind of perfect time where we've almost got too much technology in a way. It's being disciplined again, really,
Yes.
in terms of how you kind of, you know, like you say, like V1 was good enough. Don't overcook it, because I think have you ever been in a situation where you just over refining and you actually lose the magic of what you were making in the first place?
Knowing when your tune is finished, I think, is a really important skill to have as a producer.
This
you like that?
This is fucking brilliant.
Thanks, mate. Yeah. But yeah, like you see, I think like that's more my sound now, like that sort of heavier roller type thing. But I wasn't making stuff like that this time last year. You know?
No.
Yeah. I think the sound's evolved a lot. Like I can hear that that's me. Yeah, which is nice. Yeah.
Go on. That's amazing. And that's a really good exclusive. I mean, that's just listening. We're just listening just for the benefit of any listeners who are listening to this. We're just listening to that on my phone. And that almost made me fall off my chair. Like, you know, I'd like to hear that through a proper rig.
Oh, Dave, mate. It's a really cool track. We've got a really, really big, exciting premiere lined up for it as well, which is really, really cool. So yeah, I'm excited to bring it out. But like I said, you know, it'll either be a standalone single or part of an EP, but we'll see if I'm good enough by then.
Wow, go on. So we were just talking before we press play on that in terms of you as a producer, and this is something that I found that producing, and the more you know about the technical innards of a tune, the harder it is to just listen for, and especially now as a label manager as well as a label owner, A&Ring, thinking about things in that type of business way. So you've got analysis as a producer, analysis as an A&R, and your love of drum and bass as a fan, all kind of competing for each other in a way.
Yeah, I never actually thought of it like that, but I guess you're right. Like they are competing, you know. Do you know what? There was a really good situation with this the other day. I put in my Phase Records residents group chat, guys, you know, who in your opinion, you know, is sort of up and coming that I need to be listening to? And a few names that they mentioned I said, love that producer, but it's not quite right for FaZe. It's not quite the sound I'm pushing with the label. And that is a huge like competing thing, because in like an ideal world, I'd love to release that person's music. I probably one of my most played people on Spotify, but it's not right for the label.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's quite a big thing. Yeah, that's where you really have defined a signature for FaZe in that type of way, really.
Yeah. I want to push a particular sound with it, and that's I have to stay true to that. But you're right, it is, you know, it's a competitive thing, and I would think to myself, what would I do one day if a producer that was, you know, a really big producer offered me music? You know, would I just take the opportunity to release a really big name's music if it didn't fit my sound? But we're not there yet, so that's a problem for future, Gavin. Yeah.
Go on, that's brilliant. So how has the FaZe sound come about then? Because we've talked about your sound developing, and that's that's taken you by surprise. With a label sound, you can actually sculpt the sound that you have originally in your head. So how much has that deviated from the original idea that you had when you launched FaZe to where we are now?
Do you know what? I think it's been quite consistent, you know. Dark drum and bass, I think, is such a broad term. So I want to showcase the different ways that can be perceived and created, and the different emotions that can bring about. Because I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I think there's some huge euphoria to be found in the dark corners of drum and bass. And I wanted to tunnel in on that as a whole. So it's broad. It is a broad sound that we have, but I call it scattermore. It's sort of too maximalist to be super, super minimal, but, you know, not quite heavy enough, I guess, to maybe be like that techie neuro vibe.
Yeah, you've got a really nice kind of broad umbrella there, and I like the idea, and I've always found that, especially with heavy metal, and I know we're going to talk about rock in a little while, but quite often the people who make the darkest, moodiest music are usually the chirpiest and happiest souls, because there's a catharsis in getting out that real drama and that tension. And I found that ever since, you know, kind of getting into music was rock and heavy metal and stuff like that. Dark I think it's contrast or something. You've got that channel then where you can just kind of thrash out those feelings and emotions, and there's definitely a catharsis in that, isn't there?
Absolutely. I'm a really jokey, optimistic person, but, you know, my favorite sort of music is really dark and aggressive, and, you know, to someone that maybe isn't in our world would find it quite scary. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, you're right, it is that contrast. Is really, really interesting to say, actually, because if I look at the FaZe Records group chat, we're all a bunch of jokesters and we're all just having the best time of our lives and just a group of misfits mates, but we make music that's really, really aggressive.
Yeah. It's quite a boyish, like dark, heavy, tense music. Now, it's boyish because of associations and bias.
No, I really get what you're saying.
So how did you come into darker music? And do you agree that it's only boyish because boys have hogged it? I think, like, music is music and it's open to everyone, but there are definitely kind of sounds which are associated with more kind of feminine attributes.
I really understand that, and I even hear it sometimes when you listen to a piece of music that somebody has produced. I genuinely think 9 times out of 10, if you didn't know the gender of the person, you would be able to guess, I think.
Yeah, that'll be a really interesting game to play, wouldn't it?
I think so, but I think a lot of female producers have a certain feminine twist to their music. You know, even if it is dark, I think that really, really comes through. But dark drum and bass, kind of. I went through the really like traditional route. I liked jump up, and then I went off jump up, and then I liked minimal, and then I loved neuro, and then I just ended up being really, really heavily obsessed with like that 2016 critical sounds kind of dark stuff. You know, when like Emperor, Mephius, I were all top of the game. Still are, obviously, insane producers, but you know that's just what I think is just the best drum and bass in my opinion, and I really want to kind of tunnel in on that and find people that think the same as me and release their music, because to me there's nothing better than that.
Go on, wicked. And that leads us really nicely now to another release.
I'm excited for this one, mate. Oh yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to play 3 tunes. So this is the second tune now that we're going to play, and tell us all about what we're going to play now.
This is my personal favourite Phase Records tune ever. I'll be very surprised if it gets topped. I just think it's absolutely fantastic. It's a collab with Zide, whose sound I love anyway, and another excellent producer called Lex. It's called Doghouse, coming out in March, part of Zide's EP, and I just think it's genius. It's sublime.
Go
Enjoy,
on.
mate. Enjoy.
Awesome. You know what's coming.
Oh, mate. Right?
Wow.
I know.
Jeez. You must have had a chance. You played these through big rigs and gigs and stuff like that. What are the reactions like to this?
Man. Do you know what? I think I'm so focused on loving it myself that I don't even notice. Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Whoa. What I'm noticing at the moment, and I started to kind of form this theory when I was listening to Vizsla's new EP on Critical, is that there's a new kind of sound coming through at the moment, which is, it's rough, it's heavy, it's dark, but there's a rawness to it as well. It's not quite overly, like that last wave of really heavy neuro was influenced by Noisia, who had set the benchmark so impossibly high, people kind of forgot to chase the soul as much as the science. And now we've kind of moved on to this next chapter where it's heavy, it's technical, there's a lot going on, but it's not overly finished in any type of way. There's this to it. I love it.
Oh, you're right. I love Vizsla. Vizsla's fantastic. Waze as well, I think, has got that spot on. Do you know what? It's funny because it's all the people that Critical are releasing. I love Critical. Like, I'm not even wearing the t-shirt. I'm not even wearing my label's t-shirt. I'm wearing a Critical t-shirt. Yeah. Champions. Love it.
Have you had much interaction with Kazra? Because big up Kazra if you choose to listen to this podcast.
Big up Kazra. Big up. No, I've never met Kazra. I met Enai when I supported him at E1. Nearly fainted. He's like my hero. Everyone who knows me knows that man is my hero. I would love to meet Kazra. I've met Badger though.
Go on. He's a dude.
I've met Badger. What a legend. And really supportive. Gave me a lot of really good advice in Printworks, and just amazing. Like everything about that brand, it's just clean cut, raw goodness, like keeping the underground while also technically being like in that mainstream sphere of drum and bass, because Critical are huge. So but they keep in that underground rawness of, to me that's real D&B. To me that's what D&B is to me.
There's no compromise on the sound in any type of way. So tell me, big up Zide and Lex now as well.
Big up Zide and Lex. Like, I think Zide is a fantastic producer, hardworking, dedicated, lovely person. And I feel very privileged to have given him a home in D&B, because he's from Italy, where the scene isn't as big as ours, and I know he felt quite lonely and isolated over there, and it's been a real pleasure to gift him a community and be a home label for his music. And I have to also say I owe a lot of my progress in production this year to that guy. He's
cool.
Been so instrumental to me improving.
Cool, because he's very much new gen, but I know that he's had a whole other musical life before. He's actually been interviewed on One More Thing. It was one of the first kind of new hype style, new talent interviews that I did on the site when I launched it, because it just seemed to be like this flux of releases were coming from him. It's like there's something interesting going on here. He's tapping into a different source of inspiration, and he was in a heavy metal band for years and stuff like that, wasn't he?
Well, I think you can hear that in his music and in his choices of drums and of sound design, and I think it's one of the many things that makes Zide incredibly unique is that background and where he came from to lead him to D&B. And there's so many parallels of like heavy metal and rock and D&B, not just in music, but just like what gets people going the way D&B does, other than heavy metal, like really and truly, like even the mosh pits, like like we stole that from them,
massively. Massively. I've been to a couple of heavy metal gigs recently, like there's still I tap back into my kind of teenage self when I do, and it's that rawness, it's that loyalty, it's the fact that it's misfit music. This is music that you can't play during your Sunday roast with your parents and stuff like that. Like this is music which is supposed to alienate certain listeners. It's like, if you don't get it, fucking good, because this is our music.
It's anti-establishment, it's rebellion, it's gatekeepery by nature, but I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean it like in that we keep it for us, and if you don't understand it, we have a huge fundamental difference between us, because another similarity, we're die hard in drum and bass, and so are rock and heavy metal fans.
Yeah, definitely. So big up Lex as well now.
Yeah, big up Lex. Done some really, really cool things. Really, really talented producer. Again, a really nice guy. Was a big fan of his Vices EP that came out on Yamatai. I know Zide's a huge fan of Lex, and it was just really, really great that we were able to put that collab out there. And like I said, I mean, that's my favourite Phase Records tune, hands down.
Brilliant.
Hands down.
Go on. So that's coming out in March. Did you facilitate that collaboration then? Did you link them, or did they already know each other and stuff?
No, they already knew each other. I had absolutely no control or say in who Vasco Zide was collabing with, and I just think what a pair, what a duo. I'm almost a little bit annoyed, like their collab's better than mine and Zide's, like Yeah.
That's awesome. What's it like when you wake up or you check your inbox and you see a tune like that, and it's just like, that changes your day, I would imagine.
Yeah, nothing else is getting done that day. nothing else is getting done that day. It's in the Phase Records group chat. It's listening to it on repeat. It's putting it in my record box and finding double after double after double for it, sending it to the producer. What do you think of this double? What do you think of that double? It's a complete day ruiner. The discipline goes out the window.
Go on, that's cool. So is that what you do then when you've got a new tune like that, and right, this is going to be like a real centerpiece of my set? You will then practice and find those tunes then to go in. As a DJ, so this is definitely something that's very, very new gen, even though it's inherited like techniques from the likes of Mampy Swift, the likes of Andy C with doubles. Like that's something that's incredibly important to drum and bass, and it's one of the things that hasn't changed. But there is a new generation style of mixing compared to so I stopped DJing for 10 years. I've come back into it. I do these really long mixes and I have two tunes running together, and I know that still happens, but the contemporary way of mixing is much more double based and kind of these kind of little moments, really, isn't it?
It is, and there's a lot to, I mean, and the chopping and what Headaches does and things like that, and everyone trying to be a a mini AMC in a way, right? Like, and just mastering the double, but that's just one of the most beautiful things about drum and bass is how much you can do with a track. That track, for example, is a great tune in its own right, but have you heard how good it sounds with this track and this track and this track and this track? And it's just brilliant. You go down a whole new rabbit hole of happiness from finding great doubles with tunes you love.
Yeah, go on. What is your science with that then? How do you approach that? Do you have particular tunes? Do you go for dark and light? Or do you listen for other things which are kind of similar but have the bass line and the gaps where the bass line isn't, so you've got them doing the kind of Q&A thing?
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. Sometimes I don't even know how I'm doing it or where it comes from. It's just happening. You know, I'll sit there and look for doubles for ages, and no, but sometimes as well, I think, you know, like when I heard Doghouse, which is that side and next tune, instantly I was like, I'm doubling that with Invaders by Turno.
Oh, go on.
Oh, it's so fat. Oh, Dave, mate, it's so good. But I don't know if I don't think I have a specific like recipe to it. I just mix. Yeah, sometimes sometimes I'll have a set list. Sometimes I don't have a fucking clue what the fuck I've played for the past hour.
Yes, I love that. Yeah. I love that. And that's something that I've really, like, I've remembered. It's almost like I'd locked that away because I was secretly missing mixing, but I just had a lot of other commitments. And then when I've started mixing and, like, you know, booking a pirate, that's great. But then when you've got decks and you're just on your own in the house, I mean, it's up there with going to the gym.
Yeah.
In terms of just feeling better afterwards when you've had that mix. And you need to look at your history. It's like, I don't even know what I mixed there. Like, oh, I've been writing notes and stuff. And then there's one point where I've just forgotten to write the notes because it's like, you're just lost in the flow of the music.
Enjoyed it. Yeah, I think like mix for you. And, you know, if you love it and it's obvious you're loving it, other people will. I genuinely believe that. I genuinely believe that. My favourite thing is watching people have the best time mixing.
Yeah, definitely.
And D&B's supposed to be fun, you know? So.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's like that extends to everything really within creativity. If you can see the passion there, it's probably the most feedback that I ever get on what I do as a presenter and a journalist. It's like, mate, I didn't even know I was going to be into that, but because of your passion I was going to check it anyway. And it's that authenticity of appreciation and just love for whatever you're doing, really, isn't it?
I completely agree, man. Like, you know, the second you stop loving it, I think is the second you got to like take a step back and evaluate what's going on and check yourself and just make sure everything is okay. I think if I woke up one day and stopped loving it, well, number one, I'd be lost. But you know, that when there's moments where I stop loving it and it's just stressful and it's just, you know, intense and not what I want it to be, those are the times when I know, okay, you know, we need to relax here. We need to have a day off. We need to just put things to the side and go back to loving it, because you just have to. You know, it's all consuming, so you've got to love it or it's just going to be horrible. Yeah.
Why would you do it? Why would you put yourself through that? What is a gift a day away from drum and bass, though, when you do need that time and that space? How else do you scratch that itch?
I'm really close to my mum. Like, my mum's like my biggest inspiration in everything I do. So a typical day of being Gabs would probably be wake up in the morning, go to the gym, go home, ask her what she's doing, go for brunch with her, come back, you know, maybe do an hour's production, and then probably just binge some TV with her. She makes me laugh. She's great, and she's mentally stimulating, and she's clever, and she's funny, and she's the best thing. A day away from everything would genuinely be a day with my mother.
Oh, go on. That's super wholesome.
I'm lucky. I'm very lucky.
Go on. Like, for me, parent-wise, I inherited music off my dad and books off my mum. And as you know, like, if I look back at the things that they passed to me and gave me a passion for, it's really clear-cut for me. What have you inherited in that type of way? What attributes?
Oh God. I have been told by my mum that I get angry and upset like my father, and that I am sensitive in the way that my dad is. But I think I get my curiosity, my relentlessness, my managing skills, and my charisma from my mum. We're very, we're very different. You know, she's this very stylish, Audrey Hepburn-y, you know, little French lady, and I'm this Cockney B&B head. But you know, but our mannerisms are so similar. We walk the same. We express ourselves the same. It's quite interesting. But she's amazing. She'd love you, you know. Yeah.
Oh, cool, cool. Well, big up your mum. I was trying to work out which, because I know that you speak French. I know that you're half French, and I was trying to work when you were describing those attributes, I was trying to work out whether your mum or your dad was French, because also like French people are also known for being incredibly fiery and passionate as well.
Is.
So I didn't know if that was if your father was French, because you speak 4 languages, don't you? So that's another thing that you've inherited, an ability to speak that. Which actually, thinking about it, if you've got an international roster on your label, do you speak to Zaid in Italian?
No, I'm going to be honest with you. My Italian probably is not good enough to speak to Zaid in Italian. But if Zaid was speaking it, I could probably understand him. My mum's Italian. My mum's doing Italian lessons at the moment to improve her Italian.
Wow.
And she's
so she's half French, half Italian.
No. So we're the Zanottis originally, and we escaped. I think it was the Huguenots in Italy, but they followed us to France. So when we got to France, we had to cut off the end of our surname. And we became the Zanos, but that was a long time ago. I didn't witness any of that, but that's
wow.
Yeah.
Like, is this like a family feud, or
no,
excuse my ignorance?
I don't know. I think it was just a very long time ago, and that's what it was. We were the Zanottis. We came from Italy, and
wow. Wow, go on. That's some incredible family history.
Yeah. But like going back to like the languages thing. So I was brought up bilingual. So I was brought up with French and English equally. Was able to pick up Spanish really, really easily because of that, and through school, and I had great language teachers. Makes all the difference. Never really lost Spanish. I've got a few Spanish friends. I can speak to them quite well in it. I can read it very well. Italian, like I said, it's like comes really easily. And I still remember a lot of the Dutch, because I took Dutch lessons when I was going to move to Amsterdam before the pandemic.
Wow.
Really hard language.
Yeah.
Really tough language, but I still remember a lot of it.
Wow. Go on, that's brilliant. So you've got a natural aptitude then for languages in that way. I think growing up bilingual, and this is something that we've been really keen on in my family, is kind of bringing up the kids to speak as much Welsh as possible, because it really
lovely.
It opens the brain when you're growing up knowing different languages from birth, like, and identifying them. Like, the brain is an amazing thing. Even for a newborn that's learning language, they know when, you would have been able to, you obviously could tell when you were being spoken to in French or spoken to in English without knowing even what language is. The brain is such an amazing thing in that way, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And obviously I'm French, but I live here, and being able to speak my home language is integral and so important in me keeping that side of me alive. I think it's like with your kids, I think it's going to be a huge part of their Welshness to be able to speak Welsh. It's really important, I think. It's a huge part of who they are.
Yeah, definitely. The cultural identity. So how did you feel? And I didn't think this was going to come up, because I try not to talk about it because I rant about it so much. How did you feel about Brexit? That must have been a really horrible time for you, being in England, living in England, being, and so you've grown up in England all of the time.
Yeah. So,
but knowing that there's this horrible kind of xenophobic kind of vibe going on and being stirred up by the media, and it was a horrible time.
It was. And again, like going back to my mum came to England, I think she was 18, 19, refuses to take the British citizenship test because she's married a British man, she has a British child, she's paid taxes for
damn right
the past 40 years to her. She was a teacher, so she educated the British youth. To her, it was something that she felt should be given to her. Whether people agree with that or not is neither here or there. That's how she felt.
I fully agree with that.
That's how she felt. And when we didn't know all that uncertainty about whether she would still have access to free healthcare and things like that, and all of that was going on, that was really worrying. And I remember we had to, she's not the most tech savvy girl, and I had to help her a lot when applying for her right to settle and things like that, and seeing like the genuine stress that she felt in like having to do all that. And then when she got accepted, she couldn't even read the damn thing. She had to get me to do it because it was just so emotional for her.
Wow.
But she spent more of her life in the UK than in France. And there's so many people like that. And, I think one of the most beautiful things about the UK is actually how diverse our country is.
100%.
It's one of the best things about England, in my opinion, or the best. And Brexit, I think, took away a big part of that for me.
Yeah, hugely. Like, just the multiculturalism is what has made us, especially my generation and any generations afterwards, in terms of the music. And in fact, anybody since the 60s, since Windrush. And even before then, I would imagine there was a lot of crossover with European people before then, but things have been documented in our kind of world and culturally and artistically since the Windrush generation. And it's made, all of the music, everything that we've been talking about, it owes a lot of thanks, in fact, all thanks to immigration, to mixing, to fusing cultures and ideas and stuff. It's part of the British identity.
Absolutely. And what a horrible, sad world we would live in, I think, if that never happened. I wouldn't know most of my friends. I wouldn't exist. And so I think, what a sad thought that there are some people that don't want that.
But for me, it emphasised how much I love music.
Yes.
And, it really kind of made me knuckle down. If there was any point where I really did start to really subscribe to just throwing myself completely into the music, and something that my partner says quite often, she'll be hearing me interview people from Australia, New Zealand, China, great? Japan. And she's like, it blows her mind that she's like listening to people from all over the world talking, and it's happening in a little studio in the valleys.
Yes.
And to be able to can make those connections, like music brings us all together, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I released music by Noise Parfumery, who's in Japan. Inertia are in New Zealand. Isn't it amazing? Zayed, it's Italian. I think it's amazing how we get this connection through like this love of music and how it can bring people together. I think it's fantastic. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So what's coming up now? It's the start of 2024. What's coming up now for FaZe as we get into a new year?
More music. Just more music, taking it up a gear. We know who we are now, and now we've got to show drum and bass that it wasn't just 1 year of good stuff. We're here to stay. Looking forward to Hospitality on the Beach.
God, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, what a dream come true. But yeah, just more music. Hopefully some more events. And just growing and having the best time.
Are you a New Year's resolution type of person?
Oh yeah. I've got like 20.
Oh wow. Go on. Do you share them or do you keep them all secret?
I can read you them.
Oh wow, you got a list.
Yeah, I've got a list.
Go on.
Do you know what though? I start thinking of my New Year's resolutions around summer.
Right.
So they're more goals rather than resolutions. So I would like to finish 2 tracks a month. I'd be really quite happy with that. I would love if we had a #1 EP next year. I would love to have regular gigs as Gifta. I'd quite like to move out of my parents and go back to being independent again. I would like a release not just on my label but elsewhere, and I want all of my FaZe Records producers releasing on other labels. And there is here FaZe Records wins best label, but that's just a nice manifestation, isn't it?
Oh, that's wicked. I really like the idea of you wanting your artists to release on other labels.
Yes,
I think that's a reflection of the new generation again, really. Whereas before there was a real kind of culture of keeping people on the label. If you had somebody, you didn't want anybody else working with them. They were your kind of, talent on your label. And I think it's one of the most negative aspects of drum and bass culture and tradition is that kind of keeping the secrets close to the chest and not being as unified and helping. And that is a real clear demarcation of the old way of doing things and the new way of doing things. The fact that you want your artist, if they got signed to like Vision or Critical or anything like that, that's a success for you. You haven't lost an artist or lost the potential to release that EP. You've given them the chance to get up to that release.
And do you know what? Like, just thinking about it gives me goosebumps, right? If Premonition told me that they were releasing on, I don't know, Hospital, I'd faint. That'd be amazing. And because when you come into drum and bass, their dream wasn't to be part of FaZe Records. Their dream was to release on this label and work with this person. I'm just a catalyst, man. Like, you know, we've got our home here. We've got people that we can trust and bounce ideas off, and we're building something together, and that's great. But you need to also look after you, and go after what you want.
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah.
And it vindicates your A&R abilities as well if you've been working with them and then they're good enough to go on another label. This is what I've found with my own kind of little label things, really. It's like, you know, and I've sent something over to Vision. It's like, yo, let me just check this out with Vision, and getting an email back within an hour saying, yo, this is amazing. Thank you for sending this over. We're going to get back and tell you which tunes we want to sign. I was like, wow, cool. I was really into it too. Now I know that Noiser are into it as well. I know that I'm on the right track. Like that, it really kind of makes you feel that because you don't go to A&R school, do you? There's no tutorials on A&R. Like there's loads of things that can be taught, can be learned, can be researched. Having an ear for a good tune, there's a real dark magic to that, really, isn't there? Like you can't, and everybody will have their very own technique on that.
Yeah, I think you're right, and you know, like it's still something that I'm very much, you know, learning from the technical standpoint, and I have a lot of, you know, the phase crew that will help me with giving mixed down advice still as my ears, you know, developing. But I think one thing that's really important is you can't teach vibe. Like you can make technically a fantastic tune, but if the vibe isn't there or someone isn't vibing with it, that's not going to land. And I think, you know, if a producer sends me a track and they say to me, this isn't the final mix down, but you know, that vibe is there, I'm probably way more likely want to work to get that tune to its technical, you know, ability than the perfectly produced track that it just isn't hitting. You know?
Definitely. Vibe is everything. Do you think we're getting back into that kind of? We touched on that when we were talking about production techniques and that new kind of raw sound, but I think the focus is much more on vibe at the moment than it has been in a long time.
I think so, and there's so many vibes that we're seeing now that we've never seen before. Like the stuff coming out of like Vizsla, Yano, or, you know, while you can hear the influence Boonshin, while you can hear where they've got their influence from, there's a lot of vibe that did not exist, you know, back in the day. And you know, some of these guys are making really dark music, but it's euphoric, man. And it might be something as like simple as like a vocal chop that they've used that completely changes the vibe of the track, and it's great. And I think vibe is, I don't want to say made a comeback because that sounds like as if it left, but there's new vibes being created, and that is very exciting.
Yeah,
I think.
Definitely. I think vibe goes up and down the priority spectrum depending on where we're at really at the moment. It'd be really interesting to see how things are, like whether vibe is more important during a time of economic unsurety or darker music is. But then like we've been in economic unsurety for pretty much my entire adult life. Like, you know, when I think about any period, there's either been horrible wars going on or horrible economic situations going on. So I don't know. I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to be able to do that. But we're going to finish on a vibe now. We're going to finish on a vibe, and I want to know a little bit more about kind of the very, very start of your musical journey, really. So you brought one more tune to play. Tell us all about that.
So this is 505 by Arctic Monkeys. This is one of my favourite tracks of all time. It's got vibe, you know. It's got fantastic instrumentals, you know. What a killer voice on Alex. It's got imagery, it's emotional, it's sexy, man. Like I think it's great. It's a great tune. It's one of my favorite tunes ever.
I'm going back to 505. If it's a 7-hour flight or a 45-minute drive, in my imagination you're waiting, lying on your side with your hands between your thighs. Stop and wait a sec. When you look at me like that, my darling, what did you expect? I'd probably still adore you with your hands around my neck, or I did last time I checked.
ask this because my Arctic Monkeys knowledge isn't brilliant. Where does this fall into their, like, is it quite an early one for them or more
Yeah,
recent
it is.
one?
I think it was on the same album as Fluorescent Adolescence, so it's quite an old tune. I'm a pioneer for old Arctic Monkeys. Like, those first 2-3 albums were just great for me. Like, you know, I'm a Mardy Bum girl. Bet you look good on the dance floor. Like, like all of that. Like, all the old Arctic Monkeys tune is like some of my favourite music that isn't drum and bass, to be honest.
Go on,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that
love
was
it.
then, that would have been kind of you 15, 16
Ooh,
type
yeah,
of
I
age.
think it would, you know. But my love for them was like cemented when I went to uni, and my best mate also loved them. So we used to just listen to Arctic Monkeys together and like cry and drink. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Go on, it goes back to that kind of time of innocence as
Yes,
well, doesn't
yes,
it, really?
Yes.
Because there's certain things from my teenage years that I just can't listen to because they got such strong emotions attached to them. Whether it's a breakup, whether it's an argument, whether it's a fight, whether it's something horrible happening in school. There's some things that I'd love to be able to listen to, but I just can't. Because in fact, it's the idea of listening to it fills
The
me with too much
emotions
anxiety.
that
It can already
yeah.
start to feel your emotions when I'm thinking of particular things.
Yeah.
But it's that innocence. This is all part of your musical journey and brought
Absolutely.
you to where you are today
Yeah.
as a label owner, as a DJ, as a producer.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I can still play that on drums. I can still do that on the
Ah,
drums, which
go
is
on.
really like lovely. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, music like that is where like my love for like acoustic drums kind of came through, and I try to keep that in my drum and bass tracks as much as I can. But so yeah, I mean, it all comes together, I think, in what you create as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's those external influences which really make and help the progress.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like you're bringing us nicely full loop back to the concept of new generation.
Yes.
It's the new influences and what people were listening to when they were kind of growing
right.
up that makes it really exciting
Yeah.
and brings more flavours to the cooking pot, really.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
absolutely. And you know, like, we're that generation that is inspired by D&B, or the D&B that came before it. When it was new, it was all just external influences. But we're the generation that listened to D&B and is now creating it, which is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And long may it continue. So I've got one more question now,
Okay.
and because this is the first podcast of its kind, so
Okay.
who should I interview next? This every single one.
Okay.
I don't want to be in control of the curation. I've asked you, I've invited you, but now from this very moment, who is featuring next on the podcast is out of my hands.
Do you know who Ecstatic is? Hannah Ecstatic?
Oh yes, I do. Yeah.
I would absolutely love you to interview her. That'd
Okay,
be
cool.
great.
She's a fellow podcaster
Yeah,
as well, isn't
yeah.
she?
Oh,
she
and she'll
does
be great.
radio stuff.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
cool. Okay, brilliant.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Cool.
Go on, wicked. Right, there we go. Gifta, thank you very much for joining me.
Dave, thank you. It was great.
Awesome. Nice one.